Tak dobré dopoledne, vážené publikum. A ještě předtím, než uvedu naši drahou hostku, tak bych vás upozornila, že její prezentace bude v anglickém jazyce, takže kdo by chtěl mít skvělý překlad přímo do uší, tak je ideální si vzít ještě vzadu sluchátka, porty a budete slyšet naše překladatele. Takže teďka v dopoledním programu jste na prezentaci Eliny Vartiainen s přednáškou, která se jmenuje Umění v nereálném světě. A je to náš host z Finska. Začínala Elina jako animátorka a asi tak před rokem se začala věnovat virtuální realitě. Je to zajímavý jev právě, co se týká ve spojení této techniky a animace, protože až za poslední roky se stává, že animátoři posouvají hranice tohohle světa právě do těchto technologických záležitostí. No a Elina si myslím, že chce právě mluvit o tom, co jí k tomu vůbec vedlo, proč je tady tenhle svět vlastně pro ní vhodný v rámci autorské výpovědi. No a ráda bych jí předala slovo a popřála vám, ať si program užijete a ještě vám řekla, že když byste měli v průběhu prezentace chuť se jí na cokoliv zeptat, tak Elina je ochotná vám na cokoliv odpovědět, tak zvedněte jenom ruku. Tak užijte si program. A ještě bych ráda připomněla, že proč vlastně uvádíme letos více bloků, co se týká virtuální realita versus animace, tak zaměřili jsme se letos nejenom na virtuální realitu, ale na game věci a to odkazuje k Business Bistru, které uvádíme v besedě v prvním patře, kde jste moc srdečně zváni, že tam jsou studia, kteří se těma věcma zaobírají a můžete si tam vyzkoušet jejich hry, jejich content a dát jim jako zpětnou vazbu. Takže tam vás zvu a teďka užijte si Elinu.
Hi everyone, my name is Elina Vartiainen. I'm a graphic artist and a designer from Finland. I live currently in Vienna, Austria, and I'll also be VJing here tonight in the festival tent at 11 o'clock, and that's the artist name I go by with my VJing product. So I want to thank the organizers for inviting me to speak about virtual reality and animation. I'm also myself relatively new to virtual reality. I remember 1 year ago when I tried, or a bit more than that, when I tried virtual reality for the first time. I used Oculus headset and it just totally blew my mind. I remember thinking then that I want to stop doing everything that I'm doing right now and do only this. Because as many have said before me and keep saying, I feel like it is the ultimate medium at the moment. Okay, we don't have smell or touch there yet, but still it's so close to not needing anything more anymore. And I want to show you some things I've done and some things others have done and tell you a little bit how to get started. As you see, I'm really into vector art. My background is in 2D. I started as a graphic designer in advertising. I'm also really into characters, creating characters and street art. But I also like to make these side steps in my career, trying out different things. So at one point I had this phase of making plush toys. So this is not 3D. It's handmade by me. I will never do those again because it was really horrible, a lot of work. And I actually developed also a game concept for VR based on this character. It's at the moment waiting to get funded, and we'll see what happens with that in 1 month. This is graphics for that. I'm also have an idea for a mobile game, and I'm actively looking for people with whom to collaborate, sound designers, especially developers. If you know anyone kind of like-minded indie developer like me around in Czech or even preferably in Austria, then please give me a name, because those guys are hard to find, or girls. So I started as a graphic designer in digital media, but pretty soon from that I moved into working for Finnish national broadcast company. So that's where I made title sequences for TV, and ended up through that also working on mobile game productions, and I did art for children's mobile apps. Then I divide my time nowadays with my freelance work, motion graphics and game art, and then my own ideas. I don't really call myself a filmmaker, but I sometimes play around with animating also my own characters and creating something from them, but haven't really sent that to any festivals yet. This is some of my earlier work for Nokia. And then also been doing illustration, title sequences for TV, and more characters. Lately also been starting to draw, but as you saw, I'm really love the clean, almost sterile style of the vector. Okay, but about the virtual reality. So yeah, after I started doing that, I attended a workshop in Helsinki, in Aalto University, where we had a workshop on storytelling in virtual reality. We did there films, short films in kino cabaret style, so from idea creation to post-production in 3 days. And we used camera rigs to shoot our films. And after the workshop, I decided to make my own experiment. I did a 360 video, completely animated, using After Effects. Also, I did that in 3 days. I'm going to show it to you, but it's kind of stupid to show virtual reality content for people watching in the audience, because you're not supposed to see it. You're supposed to experience it. So me showing it to you here from the screen kind of would be the same as we go now into the main theater here. And instead of watching the films, the organizers will stand here in the front and explain to you that the film starts with the character walking on the street. You don't get to see it, you just get to hear the other person telling you about it. And that's what this kind of is, but since we don't have headsets for everyone, that's what we have to do. So. Yeah, so that was my experiment with 360 video first time. Wait, if I try to make this stop. And I really wanted to see how audience would react being completely in darkness and only in the beginning light directing their attention. And then also this experience, because in virtual reality when you're in there, it's like for me especially, it's experiencing the space where you are. And I wanted to see how the contrast between a really narrow closed space, if you would feel a bit claustrophobic, and when it opens into something, like how does it feel? Because it's not only like what you see, but like how it feels in your body. And with this one, actually when it opens up into this bigger space and you are there in the middle and you have this experience, you don't have a body, so you actually kind of somewhere a bit like worried because you are like there in the air and it feels kind of high because you're exactly in the middle of the cube. But and also, you know, because the storytelling in the virtual reality is also it's more complicated because you never know where they're gonna look at. So how do you direct their gaze and like what they get out of your space, your story? Do they even get it? I mean, I saw some presentations, or like I saw in the cinema where when people were put to watching with a headset and the audience could watch what this one person sees, and they were the directors were there present. And I remember when one director was showing her documentary, and the viewer, this test viewer that was looking at her film, was looking like all kinds of completely random stuff. Like there was a microphone taped into the wall, and instead of watching the action that was happening in the film, the viewer chose to look at the tape that was holding the microphone in the wall. And I mean, the director was like pulling her hair out in the audience, thinking like, this person is ruining my movie. Like, why is this person not watching where the action happens or the people? Because you don't know what people are going to look at. So that's the real challenge. In this, obviously, you know, I made sure in the beginning people will have to look at what I want them to see. But because I used the light and the darkness. And then in the open space, I just wanted to give them this free feeling of seeing whatever there is. So this is completely made from 2D graphics. The nice thing about 360 film is that you can use film footage, you can use photographs, you can use illustrations, you can use whatever you have. If you know After Effects, you can do it. You can even do it on your own. Sound designer might be a good idea to have, but otherwise, like, you have the creative freedom and you have the skill to do it. It's fairly simple. Oops. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with 360, but this is basically how it looks like. So you can create like a artificial, like virtual camera rig in After Effects using a plugin by Metal, and do your animations and graphics inside that. Have everyone here done 360 film? Am I just explaining like obvious stuff, or should I go on? Well, and but it lacks depth, like, because it's only a video layer. you know, you don't really get this 3D experience of things being a bit closer and further. Plus also, since it only contains this one soundtrack, so it's like sound is, it's not point specific. But if you want to make it a bit more advanced, you can actually bring your rendered equirectangular video into Unity. And place it on a sphere. And here you would be able to put sound effects around you and also trigger interactions. But after making the subconscious, I thought, you know, I just wasn't happy with the quality. It was 50 frames per second. It was monoscopic and a 4K. And yet it still kind of lacked like intensity. The black was not as black as it should have been because you have to pack really heavily using the codecs. And I know after having experienced what like real 3D game engine based virtual reality experience feels like, I knew that 360 just would not be enough for me, being a like visual person. Maybe it's more suitable for documentaries or other kind of work, but graphic art, animation, I think I would go for game engine. So that's then exactly what I did. And luckily, thanks to my previous works with mobile game apps, I knew a bit of Unity, but I didn't know how to do 3D. And that's kind of the next step. I mean, you can do virtual reality experiences in game engine using 2D graphics. It works just fine. There's no limit what you can do. You can do anything. But when you do 3D, it's 10 times better. So this is my first attempt to master the 3D. I'm never really interested in this realistic 3D, you know. Like, what's the point of making virtual reality experience if you just want to mimic the real world? What I really want to do is to like bring people inside the mind of the artist and show something that doesn't exist, like something that can never exist. And this is a screenshot from a recent demo. I call it demo because it doesn't even have sound yet and it's not finished. And I don't know if I'm going to finish it, but it's a 5-minute experience in a city. I can show it to you. I could play it from Unity here for you, but I have taken a screen capture, then you'll see a bit, then I'll explain what goes on there, but there's no sound, so it might be a bit. So I'll just keep talking on top of that. I don't know if you see very much, you know, when you have trouble making models and it doesn't look very good, like good trick is to turn off the lights. So that's exactly what I did. You start with standing around in a space, huge space with big buildings around you. And it starts to get a bit by bit lighter. There are interactions planned into this experience. When you look at the buildings around you, those eyes keep on appearing there. And then what here is special, what I think 360 film can't do, is that you can animate the audience. So what we have now here is that I remove the gravity and the buildings start to float. They break apart. they float in the air, you start floating with them. And so I'm raising the viewer upwards to see what else there is, to give a new view of the space he or she is in. And also, again, testing how it feels to go really, really high, and how the same world that I built, how it feels from below, how it feels from high. What speed is good for going up if you start feeling really sick. And there's plenty of time here to look around, because like that's what this virtual reality animation, I've noticed that you've got to give the viewer more time. You can't just start the action right away, because when you put someone in a place where they've never been before, which doesn't make sense to them at all, they need time to orientate to this, where they are. And here I'm now dropping them below the first level into a cave. But now I think here's too much light, you can't really see much, but yeah, that you can't just animate really quickly and show action really quickly, because the first you have to give the person time to like look around, like where am I? And also one thing you need to make sure is that like in a normal stage setup or scene, you might have here like these chairs or this wire, this like this, but you can't have too much extra stuff in virtual reality, because people start to look at these things because they kind of need to take everything in, and maybe it's because still new to all of us, you take it in much longer than you would hear. Like, I know where I am, this makes sense, but when you put a person into a place which doesn't really make sense, they look at everything. They will look at the pattern, this carpet, and they will miss what's going on there. So the experiences have to be a bit slower. And I'm all the time talking about experiences and not animations, because this is not for you to see, but it's for you to feel. I, for example, have noticed that, I don't know if it's the same with you, but when I go into a really good VR experience, I don't always notice if somebody's like touching my shoulder, like, hey, you know, because you kind of block out everything that is not in that world. If there is not another person touching you from behind and trying to say my name, like getting my attention, even though I hear it, I don't really hear it, or I don't even feel it, because you are so immersed. And that's exactly what is so great about it. So then what can you do except experiment with light and space and animating your audience? I'll show you a couple of things. Like now I showed you these two ways to make virtual reality experiences: the 360 film in After Effects and game engine-based experience in Unity. But of course there are like tons of different ways to do it, and as we are speaking now here, they're probably inventing stuff that's much more easier. But like what's nice about these is that you do it the old-fashioned way. You can sit in front of your computer and you can do it. Like now there are apps that you can be in virtual reality while you are painting and animating. But I and many others are a bit suspicious about that, because, as you know, the headsets are really heavy. It's only headset that I really enjoyed using was the PlayStation headset from Sony. That was a real pleasure. I could have imagined holding that in my head for 2 hours. But with the other one of them, I kind of know. I mean, you get back pain, you get neck pain, headaches, and nobody also knows what it does to your eyes using the current technology headset for many, many hours. So myself, I couldn't imagine creating art and animating inside virtual reality 8 hours a day or more. So far, this seems like a good way to go. Plus, especially when making, well, the 360 film, you know, like with all all videos from After Effects, it doesn't matter how the file itself, like what's your workflow, it doesn't matter that much. As long as you manage to render out your film, that's fine. But when you do a game engine-based design, then you really need to start thinking about optimizing. Everything you do just simply won't work. It won't work because it might be too heavy, badly optimized, badly thought. And this is the point where you're going to need a developer. I mean, I did that myself completely, but I really could have used a developer. I always prefer, whenever I'm doing something with Unity, to use a developer because there are so many better ways to animate things, sometimes by code, than by keyframing them by hand, as I've done here. And they can also tell you what things to look for to make your experience work for all those headsets and technology that you're making it for. This is a huge difference in between the film and the game engine-based design, is that it really matters how you do it. But I'll show you some other things that I've really enjoyed.
To yourself, you can view 20 hours a day. You were going to
Oops.
to yourself, you can view 20 hours a day. You were going to undergo many different kinds of reactions, and some of them will be more immediate than others.
Keep your eye on survival.
Memorize this. After a while, things start to slip.
I find myself floating.
The whole tricks. Totally sick. It's almost like you want to feel alive. You do something to make them notice you.
So, now that you're here, what are you going to do? What can you do?
6 by 9. The virtual experience of solitary confinement.
This was a really nice one that I saw. Okay, now the things I've shown you are kind of gray and gloomy, but like, as you've seen before, that's not really my style, but I don't know why it is that I've done those for a moment, but maybe in the future something more colorful. This was really interesting an experience. They made a model of a prison cell and gave you this experience of being inside there, and they had interviewed prisoners who were telling like what kind of thoughts rise in your head when you are confined into that kind of cell for a really long time. And they use the walls of the prison cell as a canvas to project the thoughts, texts and images, memories, what the inmates have when they are spending time there. It is not as scary as this trailer looks like. It's actually kind of thought-provoking and philosophical, and talks also about it makes you think if this kind of way to use prisons actually makes sense for anyone, especially if you are ever planning to let those people out of there. And they also animate the audience there a bit, so you are lying kind of there on the bed, And when the night falls, they make the viewer float up a bit. You kind of like exit your own body in a way. That's at least how I interpret the film experience. I don't know how to call it, but that was very interesting. But then something completely different, since many here are into traditional animation. Have you heard of Dear Angelica? Dear Angelica was made using Quill, which they were developing for making of the film. You can find really a lot of new apps and ways to create virtual reality content nowadays. I have not personally tried Quill ever, but I think the same, which I mentioned earlier, applies, that it's just not so comfortable to be there longer times. But we'll see what happens, because there are also now, like Google has the Daydream Lab, where you can animate characters and even import simple models there and do that kind of things. But so far it seems like the consensus is that not yet for professional use, but I don't know. But I guess as a conclusion, I want to say, if you haven't tried making your art or animations yet for VR, do it, because that's how I think it's gonna go. And even if it wouldn't, there is just nothing better than a really good VR experience, at least when it comes to art and design. And if you have some questions, go ahead.